Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So let's get started today. I'm very happy to be working with Karen Kaminski today. She has a very interesting story about working with salons and the growth of the salon industry. It's moved into a very high level investment process, but she has tried to streamline that in a way that works for all of her people, her investors, and her salon owners. So Karen, I'm very happy to have you here today. Please give us a little history of how you got into this business.
Thank you so much for having me. So I love the beauty industry, always did, wanted to go to beauty school. My dad was like, you can go back to beauty school after you get your education. So of course I listened to him, but I still went back and got my nail tech license when I was probably about 35. And although I love working with the people, I really truly love the business side. And when I was approached by my OPI rep, because that's the most popular, nail polish, she said, hey, would you like to do like a sales position? I'm like, what is it? And I ended up meeting with these gentlemen. They were distributors out of Philadelphia, and they gave me like 12 boxes of these little bottles of oil. And they said, here's a bunch of salons, go drop them off. And I was like, what is this? And it ended up being Moroccan oil. And that's how I started my sales career. And
wow.
I trained in Manhattan. I was in all of these beautiful salons. And like back then, like the salons were like 7 stories high. Every floor had a department. Like it was just beautiful. And fast forward, I was a Cosmoprof rep. I ended up going with Cosmoprof, and I was with them for about probably 11 years. And right at the beginning of my career, when I got trained by Cosmoprof, in Maryland, they took me into this facility, and we walked in and there was like all these little rooms with salons in them. And I was like, what is this? And she's like, oh, this is a salon suite. And I'm like, but what do they do? She's like, oh, they're all independent. I said, oh my God, you mean to tell me there's 60 accounts in here? And she was like, yeah. She goes, but they don't buy from us. And I was like, well, wait a second. She's like, don't you have these in PA? And I was like, no, we don't. So next thing you know, fast forward, Sola opened up 2 in our Pittsburgh area, because I'm up in the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area in Pennsylvania. And all the reps were going crazy because they're like, oh my God, like it's booth renting, however. And then 2 more opened up in the York area, which is probably like 2 hours south of me. And I knew it was going to take off, because Pennsylvania and New Jersey were the only 2 states that didn't have salon suites, even though salon suites have been around for since the 80s. So I thought, okay, how am I going to do this? Like, here's an opportunity, and the girl, I remember her telling me, like, these people don't buy from us, they go to the store. And when you're used to making these huge orders with multi-chair salons, and now all of a sudden they're gone, what are you going to do? So I started Allure Salon Group, and it took me 17 landlords to find somebody who finally listened to me. Like, because every time I said to them, like, hey, like, I want to rip up your place and I want to put all this electrical in and I need to put plumbing, they'd be like, do you know what you're doing? I said, yeah. I said, this is what's happening. So Joe Amato, he spends most of his winters in West Palm and Florida, Texas, and California they were the first to have salon suites. He recognized it. He's like, okay, I'll help you. So that's how my first location started. And to date, we have 5 locations in the Pennsylvania market. I kind of joke that you can go down the turnpike and get off at every exit, and we have one off of the exit. So we have one in Wilkes-Barre, one in the Wilkes-Barre or the Scranton area on Montage Mountain. We have one in Trexlertown, East Norton, and our newest one is in Lansdale, which is kind of like the suburbs of Philadelphia. So that's how I got it.
Yeah. So that's very critical to this whole equation, is location, 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 right?
Absolutely.
So in terms of real estate and retail and all of those things that people are interested in, can you give us a little clue about how you find your location so that people might be able to understand this?
So when I'm looking for a location, so how these facilities works, we look for a commercial location and we subdivide them into mini salons. And for the commercial property owner, these are fantastic investments because each one of these people have a clientele list of like 200 to 150 clients. So you're driving traffic to your location. But how we find them is usually when I'm working with investors, they will tell me I want to stay X amount for my house so that I know how to run them. So then what I do is I drop a pin and I actually look for all of the competing salon suites in the market, salons and spas, barbers, nail salons, just to see what the population looks like. And, if it supports another salon suite, by all means, we'll, go down the path of LOIs, leases, and I take them through the whole process to actually opening their doors and welcoming their tenants into their space.
Wow, that is very interesting. So it's really market research that leads you to the locations, and that's very critical for anyone to understand. So then you decided to actually get into the property management side of the equation. So each of these properties is now managed by you, and you actually take it from soup to nuts, basically, or nuts to soup, however you want to say it, and put together the whole process, including the tenant improvements in the space.
Absolutely. So just to back up a second, I don't use heat maps, and a lot of the franchises in this business model, they use heat maps. And the reason why I don't use heat maps particularly is beauty professionals, it's known, they go into beauty school right after school. A lot of them end up changing careers and going into teaching or nursing or something else, but they always keep their license. And the biggest reason why is they want to go into like the professional beauty stores to get cheap shampoo. So instead of so that's one of the main reasons I don't use heat maps, because I still have my nail tech license and I could still go into the salons, but I still keep it. So I definitely don't do that. But what happens in these facilities, I take them through. So landlords, when they see the opportunity to drive traffic into their commercial property, a salon suite is absolutely perfect for not only the commercial property owner, but also for an investor. Because what you're doing is you're taking, let's say 5 to 10,000 square feet. I kind of like to sit in that 7,000 square foot range. We subdivide those spaces into mini salons. So anywhere from 150 to 180. And again, working with a consulting like me, you could actually do them a little bigger because the franchise model is only like 110 square feet. So we do them 150, 180. We put in a shampoo bowl, we put in custom cabinets, and you're collecting weekly rent. But what happens in the lease negotiation, we're asking the landlord to invest in your property with TI money, and they help you, do your project. So whether it's $50 to $5 a square foot, I've gotten all the way up to $100 a square foot for each one of my projects. And it raised the cost, but I signed a longer lease. So instead of signing like a 3-year lease, I might be signing a 15-year lease. And because these businesses don't go, they don't go out of style, there's always new beauty professionals. And then collecting weekly rent from these individuals. And then to your point about the property management part, I have gotten a lot of phone calls from people going, help me, I love the cash flow. The business wasn't what I thought it was going to be. They thought it was like really passive income. But again, what we learned is because beauty professionals are not taught business skills in beauty school, they're literally just taught how to pass state boards. And then most of them go into a salon and they're not taught business. The salon owner's not going to teach them business. So what we saw was a lack, if people were leaving, it was because their business was failing. So between my business experience and my business partner's business experience, we created the Salon Suite Blueprint. So now we're able to help these individuals with basic business skills. And instead of having a beauty business, they have a business that does beauty services. And what we're seeing by putting that in place, we're seeing longevity. Like our tenants stay for years instead of like rolling out, because they don't have to worry about the overhead like they would in a traditional, salon, like brick and mortar. And they're able to, grow with their business. And, we show them everything from how to brand, how to market. We set up their website. So we've really helped them and foster them. So instead of us just being a salon suite business, we're like a business incubator. So a lot of my consulting clients, really love that aspect because now they have a competitive edge from all of the franchises, you know what I mean? That you have this, extra added service for your tenants.
That's fantastic. So yeah, it sounds like your clientele, your beauty salon owners actually have a much better chance of succeeding than in another situation where they're just sort of left alone to their own devices.
Absolutely. The number one thing that we identified was complaining. Like we would have people complaining all the time about stuff that had nothing to do with their business. And after a couple, conversations with like the people, I'm like, what does that have to do with their business? But we recognized that they're complaining. It was kind of like having like a teething toddler. They're in pain, but they don't know how to articulate it to you. And what happens is they just complain, and they justify why they're leaving or why they have to. And it was heartbreaking because you would see these people, they would come in so super excited. And these individuals who do come into a salon suite, they're making a ton of money. It's not like they're struggling, but it's something that they do in their business along the way that causes them, because they just don't know.
Right. They don't have an experience. They don't have business acumen. They just don't, they want to cut hair and style hair and do all
100%.
that wonderful thing. And, give me the money and everything will be fine.
Exactly. So that's why a lot of my consulting clients were like, we're seeing more and more people come in and saying, could you help me manage these? So that's where the property management part came in. And what we do is we come in, we do we put all of our systems in place that we use at our locations. And then we implement the education program and open that up to those people in there. And it creates longevity and successful salon owners. And you then could really be that semi-absent owner that the salon suite, model presents itself as.
Yeah. So you actually work with business investors to support your process. And then the landlords, of course, provide the TI allowance or some of the TI allowance. Correct. I mean, putting that many suites in with that many sinks and that much electricity is not inexpensive, but you've kind of decoded that to where it's a much less expensive process for you to go through.
Absolutely. My favorite term is value engineer. So I work with the architects.
That's a great.
I work with the architects. I work with the mechanical engineers, and we try to really value engineer the whole property. So like the average franchise model is probably about $190 a square foot to build out. Whereas with my model, custom cabinets, glass storefronts, the whole 9 yards, we do about 110 to maybe like 115 on the high end. If you're using a GC, if you wanted that added extra, it's a little bit more, but when I'm doing my own projects, I'm running in at about $107 a square foot. And that is everything: permits, drawings, products, everything.
The whole kit and caboodle, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fantastic. Well, we look forward to having you come into the San Francisco Bay Area market, or get to the West Coast. We're hoping that you'll get out here soon.
Absolutely. I would love to.
I'm sure there are plenty of landlords out here that would love to have you because you're going to drive a lot of clientele to their shopping centers, it sounds like.
Definitely a ton of people, because again, 200 clients typically for a full-time stylist. So just imagine multiplying that, let's say by, 30 independent businesses you have within your facility. So the traffic itself, that it drives is huge.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So tell me, how should people get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
So I do have LinkedIn is pretty much my most popular, but I do have my website. It's Allure Salon Suite Consulting.com. And they could reach me at Karen at Allure Salon Suite Consulting.com also. Or actually, a lot of people just pick up the phone and call me. And my number is 570-294-8979.
Well, that's terrific. Well, I hope that you get lots of calls from this, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
We'll talk soon.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.